If you clicked on a video titled Writing Trauma, you may be too! Or you're just curious what the title means. You're more than welcome to stay, but this is going to be very open. This energy does not stop. But regardless, if you have trauma, you might want to write about it to get it out of your head or to make money. Get your bag. I don't care. No judgment here. I'm exploring that. Maybe successfully. Probably weirdly. Let's talk! Hello. My name is Ella Jean, your local fantasy author. And I've been through some shit. I'm going to be very open in this video. It is about writing trauma, and I think in order to explain the angle I am coming from, I should explain what has gone on. This is not meant to be big dramatic. This is not meant to be Trauma Olympics, where I'm like, this is the only valid trauma. This just is me being honest and exploring how I can turn what I have experienced into a book. Because that's what you're told, right? Write what you know. And I know horrors. I am schizophrenic. I really didn't have any signs of schizophrenia until college, in which I graduated from high school, moved 1,000 miles away from home, started one of the most intense college programs possible in an architecture degree, and proceeded to lose my absolute mind. I mean, we're talking full, did not think the world around me was real, delusional episodes. As a result of my schizophrenia, I have been sectioned, encouraged to visit a mental hospital 3 different times, all over the course of a year and a half. All over the course of 2 years. This was, 2 years ago now? I want to say it was 2022 and 2023, over between that time. Oh my god. I stayed in a mental hospital 3 times in a year. Intense. I'm not expecting this to be the right way to write about trauma. I may still be entirely too close to these issues, being only 2 years out and better as you get. But I write to connect with people and to show people that there is a brighter future. That is why I write YA, to target me when I was younger, who was full of anxiety and couldn't believe she even deserved friends. And so when I sit down and think about writing my own schizophrenia and hospital stays, I want to share it. And I've tried. In fact, I have 2 ideas that have not ever worked. I've tried them multiple times. You see, I write fantasy and speculative. I don't write normal things. I'm not going to sit here and write the life of an actual suicidal girl. That ain't what I'm doing. I have 2 ideas that I have come up with. One being a zombie psych ward. So basically, when you're in a psych ward, you don't really get any contact with the outside world other than 10-minute calls once a day if it's not busy. That's not a lot, and you don't get told much about what's happening. As a result, I love the idea of writing a zombie novel from the perspective of psych patients who get left behind. Then their medicine starts to wear out, and where will they be accepted being psych patients? You may notice from that statement. That sounds very dark. You may also notice that I have stopped writing this multiple times because I feel that darkness welling up inside me when I try to come up with a way to end the book without seeming like a fairy tale Deus Ex Machina ending. So the other one is very much YA, like the basic premise is actually a premise that doesn't necessarily include schizophrenia. But the basic premise was always the idea of my hatred of the book is called Shattered by A.J. Howard. And I absolutely hate that at the end of the book, the main characters, it's very stereotypical YA fantasy. Main character is chosen and has been marked from birth, and then her like boy next door best friend ends up going on an adventure with her, and she meets like the edgy cool boy from the magical world. Exactly what you expect. However, at the end of it, she chooses to get rid of her best friend's memory of it. To save him? That is also the ending to the fucking Mortal Instruments. To protect everyone? I hate it. I hate this idea that we're writing out the mortal characters. The character that is supposed to be the bridge to normalcy and hopefully bring the main character back from the edge, and that they're just being written out and being like, oh, they just forget everything. So, the idea was a story where it's from the perspective of a guy whose best friend has been acting really weird ever since last summer, of which he got a concussion and doesn't remember a whole lot. Yup, it's basically book 2 of a series written as book 1 from the perspective of the best friend character. Also happen to be schizophrenic. I really liked the idea that he honestly didn't know if the dreams he was having about this fantasy world were real. That is a trope so often where, oh, could I be going crazy? And it turns out they're not, because magic actually is real. Which kind of writes off schizophrenia as something just to be big and scary, but then thank goodness it isn't that. So I liked the idea that he has to sit down at some point with, like, Fairy Boy and be like, okay, so I'm not schizophrenic. All of this is this, and Fairy Boy's like, no. You got some shit going on. Just also happens that fairies are real, and we may or may not have kidnapped and stolen all your memories from last time. Speaking of which, that was probably a bad idea. Anyway, the problem with that story is I knew at some point a character with schizophrenia needed to have a schizophrenic episode. And anytime I wrote it, I couldn't find a solution for him coming out alive on the other end. And as a result, both of these stories have been stopped because they just got too damn dark. I want to make it very clear. If you are writing the story just for yourself to get things off of your chest, make it as dark as you want. You are free to introduce any idea that you want. There is a reason catharsis is a thing. Just take care of yourself and keep yourself from spiraling into dark thoughts. Make sure the darkness is contained on the page in a way that you can manage. However, I am in a different book. I am in a different boat. I want to share my story. And unfortunately, in the world of capitalism, that means sell the story, because the only way you can share a story long term and actually have a life is to become a company and sell your book. You gotta understand, if there was a world where I could just write and share my story and not have to worry about money, I would give the story away for free. Unfortunately, capitalism. Anyway, back onto the train of thought. In a case of wanting to share the story, there are some things you need to watch out for. Because yes, you want to show what you experienced and hopefully communicate that you came out the other side. That through all the darkness, there should be a reason to hope. Unfortunately, you also need to be very careful with how you portray, especially in my case, mental illness. Schizophrenia is stereotyped. Schizophrenia is one of those that you don't want to mention. I find myself not telling people straight away, other than right after the diagnosis. Right after the diagnosis, I was like, fuck it, I'm schizophrenic. Yeah, bitch, deal with it. After that, I've been like, don't tell it to everyone because it can turn into uncomfortable conversations. However, even in your own book, you don't want to leave your readers with the wrong impression. That they take your situation, no matter how dark and complicated it is, and flatten it down to, okay, this is the only way we can see a mental illness, a condition, a problem. You can't turn it into stereotypes, and you can't really punch down, because you really don't want to teach people that there's no way through the darkness. Not saying there can't be dark moments, not saying it needs the happy-go-lucky sunshines and rainbows ending, but you just have to be careful. Because at the end of the day, yes, catharsis is the hell of a drug, but keeping yourself in that dark place doesn't help anyone either. Honestly, the part I'm really struggling with, specifically with schizophrenia, is how to put it in a fantasy book. You see, I will not write non-fantasy. I communicate my ideas, my thoughts, and my world through fantasy. Same way as I am a for-life YA writer, I am a fantasy writer. At least speculative. However, you run into the problem of people then interpreting schizophrenia as something that is just fantastical. You run into another problem of turning it into inspiration porn, where, oh my god, this schizophrenia that you struggle with, actually, it lets you see into the way people really look, and as a result, it's not a disability in the slightest, and it is a help for all time to come. Yeah, well, it's hard to order fucking coffee when you see Nosferatu over their shoulder. So, I don't want schizophrenia to come off as, oh, this is an evil thing, but I run into this problem where I don't want it to come off as too much of a good thing. It needs to be a realistic thing in a fantastical world. And I think that's what's so hard about writing your own trauma. You're so close to it. You're so enraptured in what it really did that then smoothing it out into something comprehensible seems impossible. How do you explain to people that a week of your life was just taken? That you were looked at as something not entirely human? That even now, if you walk into a hospital, not even a psych hospital, and smell that cleaner on your nose, you feel nervous that they won't believe you. That they won't explain what is happening. But I think I need to give it a try. Because there is a benefit to writing all of these thoughts down, even if no one needs to see them. straightening them out on a page, giving them to someone else. And for a second, you're not alone, and you can see a path forward. And that's why I want to share them eventually. Because there's really no time like the present, and though you can keep putting it off, saying, wait until you're a better writer, the best way to become a better writer is to keep writing complicated projects. Funny how the world works like that, right? Sorry if this didn't give you the answers you want. This wasn't really meant to be a guide, much more a laying out of my opinions and hopefully reaching out to someone who gets it. So, if you get it, or have any advice, share it in the comments below. I'm pretty active there, and I would like that all of us were a little less alone for once. Also, side note, if anyone actually has a book recommendation for a fantasy character with schizophrenia, I'd love to read it. Send it my way. I will read it right up. It can be good or bad though. Please warn me if it's bad. Please. But, as always, remember, writing is difficult, and sometimes you can't seem to figure it out, because daring to continue past the first page is brave, especially the way the world is right now. Please, I want to form a community with you, because I truly believe that anyone can write, and everyone has a story in them, no matter how dark it may be. Thanks.